All right, let's talk about something we've all been through. You get that brilliant idea, right? That spark for a new project. But how do you actually take that spark and turn it into something real without the whole thing just descending into absolute chaos? Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to build the roadmap that gets you from that messy start to a controlled, successful finish.
I mean, just think about it for a second. We've all been there. That project that kicks off with all this energy and excitement, and then pretty quickly it turns into a total nightmare. Deadlines are flying by, the budget just kind of vanishes into thin air, and the team is just running around with no idea what to do. It feels like you're trying to build a car while it's already careening down a hill. And here's the thing, that feeling of spiraling out of control, it isn't just bad luck. It's not some unsolvable mystery. Nope, it's a symptom. And the disease, the root cause, almost every single time comes down to one simple thing: the lack of a clear, solid plan from the very beginning. So let's start there. Let's really dig into what the chaos of having no plan looks like and, learn how to recognize those symptoms. Okay, so how do we fix it? Well, the antidote to all that chaos is planning. And honestly, it's simpler than you might think. It really just boils down to asking 5 simple but incredibly powerful questions.
And here they are. Super simple, right? What to do, when to do it, where, how, and who is responsible. Now look, all 5 of these are absolutely crucial for the whole shebang. But for today, we're going to zero in on the first 2: what to do and when to do it. Because honestly, if you nail these 2, you've built the backbone for everything else.
All right, let's tackle that first big one. What are we actually doing? You've probably heard that old question, right? How do you eat an elephant? The answer is always the same: one bite at a time. Well, in the world of project management, our tool for taking those bites is called the work breakdown structure. A work breakdown structure, you'll hear people call it a WBS, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a system for taking some massive, kind of scary goal and just chopping it up. You break it down into smaller, and then even smaller, pieces until you're left with real tasks that are actually manageable. Let's take a look at a classic example: building a house. I mean, you can't just put build house on a to-do list, right? It's way too big. So you break it down. You've got the foundation. Okay, better. But even that's a big task. So you break that down into excavation and pouring concrete. Now we're talking. See what's happening? Each level you go down gives you more clarity, more control. This is literally how you turn an overwhelming idea into a simple checklist.
Okay, so that's the what. We've got our neat, tidy list of tasks thanks to the WBS. So what's next? Well, now we have to answer that other huge question. When are we going to do all this stuff? This is the moment we go from just a list to an actual timeline. And the most straightforward tool for this, the one you've probably seen a million times, is the bar chart. A lot of people call it a Gantt chart. It's just a super visual way to see all your tasks spread out over time on a calendar. You can see when things start, how long they're supposed to take. It's really easy to get at a glance.
And hey, for simple projects, bar charts are awesome, but they have one giant, fatal flaw. See how all those bars are just kind of floating there, next to each other? They don't show you how the tasks are connected. The chart doesn't scream at you, hey, you can't start the framing until the foundation is done. And when you get into really complex projects, guess what? Those connections, they're literally everything.
So that leads us to a really key point. When things get complicated, we need something more powerful. We need a tool that doesn't just show us tasks, but shows us the logic of the project. The dependencies. We have to find something called the critical path. Now, there are a couple of main ways to get there. For projects where you pretty much know how long each step will take, think construction, you use something called the critical path method, or CPM. But for projects that are way more uncertain, like research and development, you use a method called PERT, which works with a range of time estimates. The key takeaway, though, is that they are both trying to do the same thing: find that critical path. So what on earth is it? Okay, the critical path is the longest sequence of tasks that have to happen in order. It's a chain of dependencies. Think about building a computer. You have to buy the parts before you can assemble them, and you have to assemble them before you can install the operating system. You can't do them out of order. That sequence, that's a path. The critical path is simply the longest one of those chains in your entire project. And this right here is the big, kind of mind-bending aha moment. That longest path of tasks actually determines the shortest amount of time your project can possibly take. Let that sink in for a second. The longest path is the shortest time. Why? Because every single task on that path is critical. If even one of them is delayed by a single day, the entire project's finish date gets pushed back by a day. There's zero wiggle room, zero slack. So let's pull all this back together. Think about it. We use the WBS to figure out what to do. Then we use the critical path to figure out when to do it. By doing just those two things, we've made a massive shift from total chaos to total control. And trust me, the payoff is huge.
See, a good plan isn't just some boring document that sits in a folder. It's a living tool. It makes everything crystal clear, so your whole team is rowing in the same direction. It slashes risk because you've actually thought about what's coming. It gives you a yardstick to measure against, so you always know if you're winning or losing. And the bottom line, it saves you time, it saves you money, and it helps you make way smarter decisions when things get tough. So remember, when you go from just a vague idea to a structured plan, you're not creating more work for yourself. You're not adding bureaucracy. What you're really adding is clarity, confidence, and control. You're giving that brilliant idea of yours the absolute best shot it has at actually succeeding. So the only real question left is, what chaos are you going to control next?